learning a block Gemara. Today's daf is daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph. We concluded the Mishnah yesterday, and we are up to the Gemara. We're continuing to discuss the laws of Egla Rufa. And we said we bring the, so now we're talking about the actual procedure. We bring it to a Nachalesa. We discussed the argument in Rashi and the Rambam whether Nachalesa means a river, strong rapids, or whether it means just dry soil, very arid, and it's rocky. In fact, Rashi says, the animal itself. Regarding the animal, we say that he shouldn't have carried a yoke, as the Torah says, nor you do any work with it. So the area remains an area that in the future you no longer work with it. About the past we'll soon see, and the animal itself also. Now we also have a similar law by paradum. Paradum has to be an animal that didn't carry anything. The animal that you're going to use, this cow, or this ox, that's what it is going to be. This cow. The law should be that just like when it comes to other kabbanas, if there's a defect in the animal that is disqualified, so too by Egla Rufa there should be such a din, and there isn't. And l'chayda should be made on a kal v'chaymer, because there's a stringency by Egla that you don't have by paraduma, and this is paraduma. Surely it should also disqualify Egla Rufa. What's the stringency? She'ein hashani ma pada she'ein hashani paisduma. It doesn't have any limitations to how old. There's a limitation in the minimum age, but there's no limitation to the maximum age. Yet mum paislba, mum disqualifies it. Egla sheshani paislba. Egla, which is a machlekes in the Gemara, whether it should be 1 year or 2 years. Rashi, everyone Rashi chooses the opinion of 1 year, but nevertheless there is a cap how old it can be. And then surely, since it has more caps, more stringency, surely she mum paislba. A mum should disqualify it. So no, shiny hustle. Paraduma is different. You want to learn from paraduma, but there's a special miyut by paraduma that says that particular psul disqualification only is limited to paraduma. Amakra. It says in the pasuk, these are the laws of paraduma that you should take for self paraduma. Asher ein ba mum. What do you mean? It doesn't have in her mum? Just say ein mum. Obviously, we're talking about the paraduma. Ba means only in this animal's mum an issue, but not in another animal that you might relate to this. What is that? Egla Rufa. Ashein ba mum paisel be'egla. Mum pasels here, but not be'egla Rufa. Nu el mi'atev so lo yeshar avodah paisel ba. If so, then all other avodas should not. How do I know about paraduma? That you're not allowed to do work. The only thing it says about paraduma is loy olala oil, that it didn't carry a yoke. That's all it says there. But we also know that paraduma, you're not do any work with the animal at all. You're not allowed to carry things for you. Forget about the yoke. You're not allowed to carry things for you. And how do we know? Kabachayim from Egla Rufa. If Egla Rufa, you're not allowed to do other works to shaluba, then surely the same thing applies to paraduma. But my question is. Most my problem. If so, where's the place? Then all other avodas should not be puzzled, because where do you learn it from Egla Rufa? Egla Rufa says that if you're going to make such a big deal of the word ba, then say that ba by Egla Rufa has come to limit only in her you're not doing any work with. If you placed on the paraduma even just a sack full of bags, psula it is puzzle. The only difference is by Egla, and by Egla Rufa it has to be until it actually not only carries it but walks with it. Because it says the pasuk fine, but you learn from paraduma. Paraduma learns from Egla Rufa that you're not allowed to carry. You're not allowed to carry anything, not only just a yoke. There's a famous rule that if you learn a kal v'chaymer, you can only learn from what the basis is. You cannot learn more than daya li. So by a Egla Rufa, we say that it's only liable when he walks with it. How come at paraduma we go a step above? We say just carrying it, just standing in one place. And well, that's not so. The shiny part is different. You know why? There's a gzeidah shava that usurps that undermines that. It says oil. We have a gzeidah shava. So we're not learning kal v'chaymer, we're actually learning gzeidah shava. By paraduma it says shaloy oil, and by Egla Rufa it says asher shalei moshcha ba'oil. We have gzeidah shava oil. That tells you that just like whatever is also by Egla Rufa, it means carrying anything. So the same thing applies to paraduma. Egla nami teise oil with para. So then the other way around. And let's learn oil from para and say that just like by para, if there's a mum, Same thing over here. There you have the word ba that tells you that limit this gzeira shava only to carrying and not to a mum. Not to a mum. Yeah, so further. But the Baba Eglarufa come teach you another thing altogether to limit what? To tell you ba only by Eglarufa. You think that ba from Eglarufa you're telling me is coming to tell you only by Eglarufa is you're not allowed to do any work with it does not apply to Paradum. Well, let me ask you a question. No, we're using the bars of Eglarufa to tell you that these laws apply only to Eglarufa, not to Kachim. Don't we need that to tell you that it applies to Kachim? To tell you that only over here is Avodah forbidden by Eglarufa, but not by Kachim. And therefore, there's no bar when it comes to differentiate between Eglarufa and Paraduma. So Gemara says, Saga Mina, you asked your question was we're answering. Your question was if you're going to rely on ba, then use the ba the other way around and say that the thing that you're not allowed to work with it only applies to Garufa and not to Paraduma. Because you're using it by Paraduma, you're not allowed to work with it. So we say there's a ba. So we're saying no. We're answering the ba that's by Eglarufa is not here coming to exclude Paraduma, which we have here show is coming to exclude other kachim. What do you mean? The Sabi I would have thought Leitzim Kabbalah Megla actually an old culture of Megla Ma Egla Shem Mum Pais Mamad which has such a leniency that a mum does not disqualify. Yet Avoided Paiselas boy cannot do any word. Kachim Shemum Paiselas boy Kachim were a mum apostles. And the dish by the Paiselas surely Avoided Shapas. Gemara says no, I don't need buff for that. You want to learn Kavachayim? Equal Mifrach I can slug it up. Male Egla Shekin Shana has another chumrah. It has a cap on the ears. And kachim there's no limit. Says you want to kachim no limit. Well, you're right. Depends which one. Shlamim, but the other kachim leka, the apostle shanim kachim. There are certain kachim that shanim also apostles, and it's those kachim that we need a kavachayim for maybe that we need bar to tell you that there's no Easter prayer work. You're right. Other kachim wouldn't even learn from. There's no kavachayim in the first place. Why would you think it's certain work? But there are certain karbanis where there is a cap in it, or karm pesach or karm chatat. There's a cap how old the animal can be. So there you would make a kavachayim from egla roof, and you'd say you're not allowed, it's forbidden to do any work with it. Comes along, bar says it's permitted. It has nothing to do with part of duma. So we need the pasuk for those kachim that passes buhu shanim. Says Gemara, the kachim. So you want to tell me that we need the ba to exclude other kachim? Therefore, it has no bearing on paraduma. We learn paraduma. Kachim like possible avoiding kachim that avoided does not disqualify. You look from here, but hasanafka. Look another pasuk with the detail delineates all the different psulim, and it doesn't mention about avoided. For example, it says over there, and it says more than that. It says avedet, you're blind, a shaver, or broken, or chodot, or yabelas, or godav, you left all kinds of different worlds. Leisakivu eila Hashem. These cannot be brought to Hashem. What do you mean eila? Obviously, it's eila. You just highlighted all the ones that are puzzle. Why are you adding word eila to tell you eliyatamaki? Only these you're not allowed to bring up as a carbon. Kachim should not be avoided, but you could bring up as a carbon kachim that you did avoid. Says Gemara, still, I need the bar to negate other kachim, not to do with paraduma. So I would have thought, I would have thought, when do we say that it's not a problem, avoid? If you did avoid it, het. Aval avoidus isa. If you did avoid isa, for example, you had the animal working on Shabbos, or you had the animal working with climb, with another animal which is forbidden, different kind of species. A malitza, maybe such a carbon should not be brought up as a carbon. And we learned that from you would learn that from Egla Ruf, and that's why you need bar. That's how you know. So tzricha, we need it. Even that I don't have to learn why, because we're going to have two psukim that tells you avoid is not a disqualification when it comes to kabbanis. And you can ask yourself, why do I need two psukim? We'll soon see what the second pasuk is. You can ask why I need two psukim. I'll tell you, but one for avoid is het and one for avoid is isn't. What's the other pasuk? It says the pasuk may add ben necher from the hand of a ben necher from a stranger. You should not bring mikol eile. You shouldn't bring from all of these. Again, it's proved by the psulim that even from a goyim, whatever it is, you take the karbonas, but not if it has these psulim on our mizbech. And the bombers you can take it, but not on mizbech. You should not avoid it, but you can take kachim, and you can ask why you need two psulim. One for avoid his head, one for avoid his sister. So I don't need to negate other kachim. Says you still do. I'm still using bar for other kabbanas. Why? Because it's a salad. I would have thought I would have thought, when is it a problem? If you work with them, when do we say that the avodah is not a problem if you work with them before they became carbon? Kaddish. I will all make it kosher, but once you decided to make them sacred and sanctify them, maybe it's us from so there's no bar anymore to negate para aduma when it comes to avodah, and that's why we will learn para from. Now the will analyze what we just said before. By a para aduma, you place over there a sack full of bags is possible, but it has to only when it moves. Says the Gemara. Meisel asks a question. It says oil. It says by a part of the mashal oil, only oil. You're not allowed to wear your yoke. Shad avoid even I know part of the cannot do any other avoid as well. We learn that from Egla Ruf. What's it? And by Egla Ruf, it says Kali Ashaloi Ubampo. You're not doing any work. And what's the Kabbalah? My Egla Shem Mum Paisel, but Mother Egla, there's no mum does disqualify. Get shot avoided Paisel, but can't do any work. Pada Shemum Paisel, but Pada Aduma that a mum does disqualify, and it is avoided Paisel. Surely then other avoided should pass. But all other Kabbanas, we have the word Ba. Ba comes to limit all other Kabbanas. There's no Isser of avoided. So only Pada Aduma. If you can ask. Nema kan oil. If you can ask me a question, and we'll soon see what that question is, you should know it's not a problem because you'll use it there shava. You don't like the kalchem, there shava. The nema kan oil, but nema hal oil. It says in the pasuk over here that like all oil by paraduma, and over here it says actually moshcha by oil by egla rufa. Malahal and shara by just place lava. There's like any other way possible. I've can't try by place lava. Here also any other way possible. My name is what possible question are you going to have? If you even ask, English can try to place about Egla roof, there's a cap, and part of there's no cap. So I can either tell you, or you can ask me, or you can ask me another question. Kachim will prove it to you. Shemum paisel bem, mum does disqualify by them, and yet you're allowed to avoid it. They ain't avoid the patel ben. So why should paradum be different? That's the question you can ask me. So I'll tell you, you don't have a shavar. Nema kan. Here it says oil, but nema lahalan oil. Here it says also oil. Just like over there. It's not just the oil, but any avoid you cannot do. When it's a question of since you are learning from Elarufa, and by Elarufa, it's only when Moshcha, when he travels with it. So if he travels with it, so by Paradum, also the din should be only when he walks with it. Yeah, the din by Paradum if he stands still. If you're learning from Eglarufa, Malahal over there, until the animal actually walks. So say the same thing by Paradum, Afkan, until he walks. And says, you're right, Tanai is actually a machlekes Tanai. And that is that those who learn it from Egla Rufa, you're right. Those who learn it from Egla Rufa will say that just like Egla Rufa, you have to walk, the Paradu also has to walk. Because the Maisel Megufa the Potter, the also who learns it from Potter itself. The Tanya, we learned oil, ain't the yellow oil. All we know, it says by Paraduma, oil. So all I know is you don't have a yoke. You cannot do any work. Asher. Asher comes to include oil. Asher comes to include that what? No, we make a comma. Comma. As if it says anything. Shouldn't be doing any work. And then we add the word oil. So therefore, since we live Asher Allah, you shouldn't do any work. Even standing on place. No oil matam. What do you need oil for? Oil poisel, oil pasel, bein b'shas aveda, bein b'shloishas aveda. That oil possible, you put the yoke on it because you were carrying it, it was too heavy, you just put it on there for a minute. That possible paraduma. Shad avoidance, any other avoidance, only if you decided to do this on a per basis or you did always a plan. And place a little bit. So according to this Tana, we're not learning from Egla Ruf at all. We're only learning from Paraduma within itself. But Paraduma nowhere doesn't say the word Moshcha. By Egla Ruf it says Moshcha. So no, according to Tana, you learn Kabachem Paraduma, you're right. From Egla Ruf, you're right. Then the Paraduma is not disqualified until it actually walks with it. But the Rav is following this other Tana who's not even learning from Egla Ruf, he's learning from itself. Ashaloi oil. You put a comma there that anything on it is forbidden, even standing in one place. Why I say oil? Because there's a chumrah of oil you don't have by other things. Oil is always, if you put it on the animal, I don't care what reason it disqualifies the paraduma, but everything else only if you put it there because that's what your plan was. The aim, why don't you say the following? The cloud, right? Anything put on it. Oil is a prat limited to yolk. So we have a rule: klal prat, ein b'chlal, ela masha prat, limited only to yolk. What oil only oil. But the answer is asher ribuy. Asher is a ribuy. Asher comes to include. So it's not coming to limit, it's coming to include. Beyond the prat. The Tanya Nami, we also learned that which I got a very similar thing. Oil, ain't yellow oil. It says oil. All I know is put a yolk on the egg. Sharabayis menayim. All of the avoid have I know. Tamalayim actually like bad boy. I didn't do any work. I don't care what it is. So why talk about oil? So we answered like I said before. Oil paisel. Oil has a chumrah over everything else. Oil paisel bein b'shas avodah. Bein shalei b'shas avodah. Even we just put it there for men to lighten your load. Shar avodah. All other work ain't paisel ela b'shas avodah. Only if you put it there for planning. Like the same question actually. Uber was a klal and oil prat. Prat limits that. Oil limit cheloi. So we answer asher ribuyu. Asher is a ribuyu. Who said, boy, we asked Rabbi Yochanan a question. Mishichas oil bekama. By Egel Rufa says it has to walk with it. How far do you have to walk with it? Amalei kimloi oil. The distance of the oil itself. Ibailu, which side of the oil? La'orke l'rachvei. L'rachvei sometimes means the width, and rachvei means the depth. Knows the thickness of the oil, which is not very much. You have to make this like 1 footstep, not even a footstep. Or the the length from the beginning of the end of it has to walk that far. One of the rabbis said, Rabbi Yaakov, I understood from Rabbi Yochanan's words, Meshichas oil l'rachvei tefach. That the meshicha of the oil, how much does it have to be? Like the thickness of a yoke, and the yokes are thick, is a tefach. So why give this whole pupul? Just tell us. It has to travel the distance of a tefach. Kamashlam, we have this quite often. Shiyuda the oil tefach. They try and tell you what proper yoke should be thicker tefach. When you buy it and you get a yoke, if it's less than a tefach, you were ripped off. I'm going to tell you, why did the Taylor say, hey, the egla ben nachal? Why did the Taylor say that the egla be brought to this place called the nachal? According to the Rambam, who said that nachal means a river, the entire river then becomes us, you can't do anything in the river. According to Rashi, that nachal means dry land. So then there's a machlek with 4 amas. The Yisham is another opinion that 50 amas can remember another thing. A shetach of land, and that's it. Let this eglu so young, especially if it's a year old, it didn't give birth yet. If it's 2 years old, I don't know how old can an eglu be when it starts giving birth. So maybe that's why Rashi goes and follows the opinion of 1 year, because it says here a young calf didn't have any offspring yet. So maybe that's what Rashi says. The opinion of the Gemara here of 1 year. And you should go ahead and bring it to a place which does not have, didn't grow anything on the river. And they should atone for this murderer who didn't allow this victim to have any children. My payers. What do you mean payers? Even people having children. So if it's a zokin, let's say it's an old person who can't have any more children, or a sadi, somebody who's sterile, or who cannot have any children, so then there's no din about the roof. Ella mitzvah. Payers means mitzvahs. I told you yesterday, based on this, machlekes, if a goy is a victim, is there din about the roof or not? Zay mitzvah in there count like mitzvahs or not? Okay. Tell you what further. And here's a clear raya. It makes no difference the person observed mitzvah, didn't observe mitzvahs, because every yid is called is chayiv in mitzvahs, and therefore you can always do tshuva. And even sha'achar, you become a tzaddik gomer. We're in a Mishnah kedusha. What do you like lace and ace? Kamashmoy kasha tough. Talk about the middle of the 9 lace to shoot kasha. How do ace means tough? Shnema. It says in pasuk. Interesting, we learned from Bilam. That your seed is strong, and v'sim basala kanecha, and placing the boulder and the rock, that's where you place your nest. And so therefore we learn from there, Eson. And it says, Shimu Harim, listen mountains, Aziv Hashem, Sonim, and the strong ones, mostly are the foundation of the ground. So we see again that Eson means mountains. These are the foundations of the ground. I know Eson also means that you don't bring new soil there. It has to be the soil that was there originally. It says another pasuk. It says, "I'm going to bring you a nation from far away, Goy Eson. I will bring you a Goy Eson who Goy Ma'olamu. I'll bring you a Goy Eson, a Goy who's been around for a long time, who's been ancient." My time, why from the back? Which is from the back. By bachatas, you don't have to decapitate the bird. You just have to go through the two simonim. So there's a machlekes whether by Egel you actually have to decapitate or whatever. You didn't decapitate, but you sort of did, most of them are good enough for that. You know, do any planting there when you're working. Tanabana, and we learned it says it says Asher lo ye avad boy, sort of in between past and future. So Asher lo ye avad boy, that we're looking for a land that was never used before either. You should never be used in the future, but nothing about the past. We don't care if it was planted in the past. Rabba says, about the future, you shouldn't plant in the future. That's it. This land now becomes sort of sacred land. You can't use it again. It's more like a monument for this victim. That this is how you obviously map out the land. You isolate it. It's like a monument for this victim. And just talking about the victim, there's a machlekes. How's it work? You leave the victim lying there and you wait till these elders come and they measure. So the Tosefta actually says you bury the victim straight away, and they would make make an outline of the body where exactly it is. The only problem with that is, and it's not be a problem just to work it out. According to the opinion, is the navel. How did they know the navel? So it had to mark out somehow or other exactly where the navel was, or if it was the head, where the head is, the nose, and so on and so forth. So the other opinion seems to be saying, because Algmar doesn't mention a word about it. So other opinion seems to say the body stays there, remains there until they come. And how quick do they come? You got to get these old people here to come out. And if it's a city that's whatever it is, which city do you call them from to come? And so on. So interesting, Algmar doesn't mention a word about that. Anyway, so regarding the future, everyone agrees you should never use this. It's like a monument for the victim. Everyone's going to remember the victim this way, and maybe people will recollect. I remember there's another stranger in town at the time or something. I know there's other guy was walking the same direction. We're arguing about the past. Rabbi Yesh's word is Miksi. Does it say in the pasuk v'lo yavad? Asher lo yavad. Does it say lo yavad that you will not work? Asher lo yu'ubad ksi. Lo yu'ubad. This sounds like past tense. I mean, it shouldn't be. It should never have been worked with. If it's talking about history, it should have said never. By saying even though it's a strange word, it's talking about the future. He says you're right. The word asher tells you that it says asher lo yavad. Asher takes the word yavad and makes it about the past. Asher comes to add something, and that is we had before already that you shouldn't say a klal prat. We should only limit it to oil. It comes asher. It comes to add more members of prat. So we say the same. That's what asher is for. Be allowed to do other activities which don't relate directly to the land, including polishing stones and carving stones. Only planting. Any other work with the place. The way Rambam learns it's a river. It's hard to understand all of this thing about Lo Yizora. Where do you plant in the river, and what exactly is it talking about here? It means the where you brought the egla, which is right next to the river bank. It's a very small area there. Planting is with the land itself. Of course, the land itself. Yotza, Srikas, Pishton, the Nikar Avonim, is not the Why would you say you shouldn't work with the land as a cloud? You shouldn't plant is a prat. I don't think I'll do the plant. Asher, this is what we meant before. We said Asher comes to Marba, not just work we said that we learned before, but the same idea that Asher comes to Marba, you're not allowed to do any work with the land. So according to Rambam means right next to the river. Zikni the name, the Zikni wash the hands. All the elders of the city. Now here doesn't mean only the Sanhedrin. Is a then they should wash their hands by the egla rufa benachal sheitam lemarufa matam lemarufa amokam arifasa shel egla. Where do they wash their hands? Where they're going to do the arifa of the egla. Said the mother, we didn't spill this in some blood. We never saw The Chi in the Mishnah said all the Bain also we actually allege that they're the murderers. We didn't know that he existed, that we should have had given him food that wouldn't have been an issue in the first place. We didn't let him go without escort. We didn't know that he was around. Time we learned. Interesting question is whether a tourist in the city has an obligation to tell the Rabbanim, I'm here. Because now, because of him, they're all nichshel. They have no idea. If a guy comes in, late night, leaves early morning, and then he gets killed, you can say that he has a responsibility as well, or she, to tell the Rabbanim, I'm here. But again, nowhere do we mention that there's responsibility on the victim to inform them. That the reward for escorting somebody, there's no limit to that reward. How do I know that? It says a pasuk, Ayidu, how it says in the beginning of Ayidu, the people, the guard, they saw a person leaving the city. They couldn't find the entrance to the city. They saw a person leaving the city. And they said to the person, show us the entrance to the city, and we will repay you with some act of kindness. It says a pasuk, he showed them where the entrance to the city was. And they went into the city and they killed everybody out in the city except this person's family. They sent away. They killed the entire city by the sword. They sent that person away. And then it's and this person that they spared went by even he built himself a city. And because he did an act of chesed, he built a city called Vayikra Luz. So it's not the same Luz that we find in the Torah by Yaakov. So this is called Luz. He shmo ad hayom hazeh. It still has that same name until this very day. And Tanya, we learn now this person has such a schus because he did an act of chesed that this city is special. He loses this city loses the city the way they actually are tzaveh chelis. Because remember, what's the big deal? First of all, it's a schus, but also there were many con artists, scammers, who would use a thing called kola elon, a sap from a tree that had the same color, identical color as the chalozin, and the average person on the street wouldn't be able to detect the difference between, this or not. So that person, therefore, yeah. So this person, because he was so honest and he gave them away, so therefore people trusted that his chelis was a real thing. He left it alone, wasn't involved with it, and the Nebuchadnezzar didn't destroy the city. And Hada Yemazem means you're talking about even beyond the times of Tanakh. Even Malchamavis, nobody dies in that city. There's a whole story in another place that the Rava went to that city, and because everyone was truthful, and one day his wife, on a Friday, was taking a shower, and a neighbor asked, how's your wife? And he said, oh, she's not here. And the next week, two people died in that city. They right away called him and said, Rabbi, you're the newest person here. Something happened there. You weren't honest. And he told them, and they threw him out of the city. Because they had to be honest, and he wasn't honest. And the Malchamavis can't get into the city. But people get tired of living. It's an amazing figure. People, the older people that had enough of life, Bisman Shadait and Kotzalain had enough. And they don't want to stay on. They would leave the city, the environment of the city, and they would die. Nobody died in that city. All this chus of this person, I guess, who did an act of chesed for the Eden there, and this is the reward that he got. Well, they don't come and interesting, he didn't become a Yid or anything else after all this. Sorry? They didn't do anything. They died natural death. But this, they took actually, if I remember correctly, thank you for reminding me, there's a whole question of, I was touching on from suicide. But let's say they're constantly giving you medicines prolong your life, right? And it's very, very painful. You have the right to stop taking those medicines. It's big machlekes. One of them, I can't remember, brings this Gemara as a raya, that there's like a medicine in this town because you live, and then he'd walk out, and then the natural causes, forces took over. You're allowed to do that. Others say, no, I've made they're all going. It said the guy who started to say was going, how do you know you're talking about eating there? This Kanani, in fact, he didn't even tell them where it was. He just showed them, where it was. And he didn't walk with his feet. He did nothing. He didn't say, follow me. He saved them. somebody who physically escorts somebody, then surely has an unbelievable schus. This is not really a case of Levi. He didn't really escort them. He just showed them how to get into the city and conquer the city, and we treat it as if it's Levi. Talking about a city of truth. There's a beautiful medrash. I'll just tell you nothing to do with it. But it's a beautiful medrash. There's a young man who was looking for the truth, pursuing the truth, and he was traveling everywhere. But wherever he lived, he moved from one city to the next city. And these were academic scholars, and he found that nobody was 100% truthful. Everybody convinced himself that in this case you're allowed to lie, in this case you're allowed to. Anyway, and for years he's wondering about it. Finally, he was told, if you want to find the city of truth, it's somewhere there and there. And maybe it's even Luz, I'm not sure which city it was. So he and they told him you have to go into the forest, count a certain number of trees, you'll find an old man there, and he'll tell you where you find the city of truth. So he went there and he met this man, and the man said, you want the city of truth? You really want the city of truth? Told him, gave him directions how to go. It's away, away from everybody. And he comes there, it's a big cave. And he walks inside the cave, and he knocks on the door, they open up, and they bring him down. It's a massive cave, it's full of tables there with candles and everything else. And he said, this is the city of truth. And he's standing all perplexed. What is the city of truth? So he said, you see, every table is another town or a village, and every yartzeit lich, whatever you see, is another person. And you see over here, you have tall glasses, but there's very little oil left. And you have short glasses, a lot of oil left, which means you have people out there. This represents people. You have some people that look, they're healthy and everything else, and suddenly they're going to pass away. You have people who look very sick, and they're going to live for years and years and years. And it also means, you cannot tell something from the surface. Okay. Then the guy leaves, and he starts wandering about. And then finally, he found his table of his city. And he starts looking at the names and everything, and he recognizes the names of his family, cousins, siblings, parents, and he sees some of them have tall glasses with very little oil, some have shorter and bigger oil, and he starts looking for his own glass. He finds his glass, and his glass is a very large glass, very little oil left. And he got very scared. So he looks around and he sees that all the siblings and all the ones around him, they're full of oil. He thinks to himself, what's going to be a big deal if I take a little bit of oil for this glass, only a little bit won't really affect them, but meanwhile, in the aggregate, will give me a good life. So he takes the first glass next to him, and he's about to start pouring into his glass. Suddenly, this old man holds his hand, and he says, didn't you say you were looking for the city of truth? What are you doing? That's the message. In other words, when it comes to yourself, we have our own definition of what truth is. Saying about it further, what do you mean you show them? He sort of, with his mouth, he didn't want to tell them openly how to conquer the city where it is. So he made the mouth, he made a cruel mouth, he made this, so they should know which direction to go. And Rabbi Yechon says, he pointed with his finger. Tani was Rabbi Yechon, because Kanani is ahead of Be'etz Boyer. And Marais says, of course, it's Kanani. It's amazing that you have a machlekes how he showed that, it makes a difference. But he said, because the guy showed the finger, he saved himself and forevermore. So I guess what Rabbi Yechon is saying, you have to do a bit more than just moving your mouth. You have to move your finger, a little bit of an effort. If you're traveling and you have no one to escort you, you should learn Torah. That's why when you travel in the car, they put a lot of people in mezuzah, you have a chitas in your car, some safer in your car with your protection. So it says, they should escort you for your head, and a nokin is like a chain around your neck. Now, that is, it says a chassan kali, the chassan before the wedding needs a shomer. Afterwards, it's like a royalty. They have to be escorted, but prior to that, they need a shomer. If you don't have a shomer, you walk around with a tanya or a chumash or a siddur, some sefer that will protect you, and that comes from the Gemara right here. That this actually protects you as well. The 4 steps that Pari took for Avram to reward Avram in a way. Pari instructed the people, and he sent away Avram. Even though the Abishal Avram Avinu that he's not going to be slaves, didn't say which country. Why did Pari end up getting the country? Because of the 4 steps he took, and he escorted Avram. It says, he's just trying to prove to you how important it is to escort somebody and see somebody off. 4 amas in the city, then even though you're going through it, maybe then sure you won't be harmed. Ravina escorted over by for 4 amas in the city. Something happened, we each was saved. You should ask. Hezekah shouldn't have happened in the first place. If he did a mitzvah of Aliyah, then it shouldn't have happened in the first place. But then you'll never know that you needed a story like this to tell you that, I don't remember learn. A rabbi should escort his Talmud until Iburid. Iburid, we learned in Gemara Eruvin, is 70 and 2/3 of Amal beyond the perimeter of the city. A friend to a friend, or others say a Talmud Chacham to a fellow Talmud Chacham at Chum Shabbos, to walk all the way to Chum Shabbos, 2,000 Amos out of the city, a kilometer. Talmud Rav, a Talmud to his rabbi, ain't like shir. There's no limit. It's an interesting Gemara. Bekama, we just said there's no limit. So long over here means it means over here it's just an expression. At parsa, at least a parsa, 4 kilometers. 4 mil. That's from an ordinary. But your main teacher, you have to walk 12 mil. Rav Kana is to escort Hashem Barashi. They pulled not the two Rav Kanas. There's one Rav Kana who was together with Rab, and then went to Tzor Rabbi Yechon and Baba Kama learned there. And this Rav Kana is Rav Ashi's son of Simi. So obviously this is a different Rav Kana altogether. The Pum Nahara ad Beit Shanis the bubble. He would escort him from a place called Pum Nahara all the way to where the palm trees were in bubble. There's a lot of palm trees there somewhere in bubble. Kimata Hassan, when they came there, Amalei, so he asked the question. In fact, the Gemara Brachas of Lamanal, they would use this Gemara to say that if you escort your friend, are you potem chavel? I'm sorry, I want to touch. Are you potem chavel? If you had enough of your friend, you want to get potter from him, and you just can't get rid of him, you start talking about halacha, and then change the subject, whatever your politics, you'll see that they'll shoot themselves. And the Gemara gives example, and they tell the story. The story, the question was, these palm trees in bubble, these are true. They say that Hani says the bubble, these palm trees have been here since the time of the Marishan, and the very old Malatzchai, and Gemara Brachas, they all the concern, they ask a question. The Gemara says, are you potter, and they use this Gemara right here. Where's the halacha? So they each one tries to come up with a halacha. What's enough community of these palm trees in time of Rishon? Because Asherah was planted, a tree from Avodah Zarah is planted, from the beginning. It did a predate Avodah Zarah, these trees, because Enosh, the Rambam says, when did Avodah Zarah begin? Only in the times of Enosh. If these trees were around from the times of Adam Rishon, then these trees cannot be Asherah, and you can definitely use them for sukkah and whatever else you want to use them. There's no problem. That's what I can't remember. Somebody wants to say. It says a pasuk, the Eretz the land that nobody ever crossed, and nobody sat there. If nobody crossed there, obviously he couldn't live there. What do you mean? You would have to tell me he didn't dwell there. If he didn't pass, they shouldn't dwell there. Any land that Adam Rishon said should be inhabited one day, it was Yasha. Would never settle ever till Mashiach comes. Will never settle, and therefore these trees over here, these palm trees, are palm trees. I mean, the people were there. Or Rashi learns, some people Rashi learns, okay, Rashi learns that this place was obviously only meant for palm trees, not for human, not for people. Mordechai escorted Ravashi. Mordechai was a student of Ravashi. The ad beekeeper and two beekeeper. We also have a Mordechai talking to Rav, so maybe Mordechai. He escorted from a grain beekeeper. Amla ad beedoider. Whatever that is. Anyone who does not escort somebody else, does not allow someone to escort him, it's as if you spilled innocent blood. Now, what's the story of Elisha? This is the famous saying we have, as you'll see, when somebody says a mentirosa, somebody says a baba meiser, you say, there's no bears there, there's no fires there, there's not a kernel of truth to what you're saying. But there is a machlekes, we'll see in a minute. What happened was Elisha came to the waters in Yericho were very bitter, they couldn't drink. So he went and he healed the waters. There were a number of people who made a panos. There are people out there who always know how to make a panos out of a bad situation. And what they did was they imported water and they sold the water. And now that there was fresh water and drinkable water in Yericho, they lost their panos. So they're very angry. So and they went and cursed Elisha. They taunted him. And Elisha got angry, and he set upon them bears, and 42 of them were killed on that day. So the Gemara says if people would have escorted Elisha, they would have calmed them down, and he wouldn't have, got so angry. So what happened was murder. Elisha was said into, but he provoked, or you're scared, self-defense. But this happened only because he wasn't escorted. Remember, it says, Vayal Misham Beis Kel. He went from the Beis Kel, but who Oile Baderech, he alone was traveling the road, Norim Tanim, and youngsters Yotzim in the year went to the city by his Kausuba, and they cursed him. And they said to him, Ale Kerech, Ale Kerech, don't boldly, get a boldly. No, we took away our panasi, you made us, took away everything from us. You made the spot bold for us, because when the water was bad, we had a good livelihood there. My Norim Tanim, what do you mean young kids? They had no mitzvahs for them, and Tani Shemik they weren't believers. In other words, if they believed Panasa comes to Eibishter, so this Panasa dried up, but there's another Panasa. There's a person once went to the Rebbe in Yechidus, and he said the Rebbe is having problems with Panasa. So the Rebbe told him to start another Panasa. So he said he heard a mice of the Chafetz Chaim. Something similar happened. Somebody said to the Chafetz Chaim that he had a Panasa, and it wasn't working out. So he suggested Chafetz Chaim, maybe I should start another Panasa. So the Chafetz Chaim said, if you have an urn, and you have one tap, and there's no water coming out, you can make a second tap, more water will come out. So therefore, in other words, if you have no brach, you have no brach. So the Rebbe said to him, that's provided if both taps are connected to the same urn. But if you open another tap to another urn, you might have panasa there. So but these people didn't believe, because if the Abish should dry one panasa, we'll find another panasa, which is then very hard to understand in this week's parsha we just read yesterday, where he told a man noichel. Why was the Torah allowing, if the Abish gave us a mitzvah of shmita, what do you mean tell a man noichel? Then they're no better than these kids over here. We say, well, we have no panasa now, we have no agriculture. What's the difference? Anyway, another time. So Gemara said further, how do you learn? They were kids.
And you're being told not to make an effort.
Sorry?
But there it's telling you specifically not to make an effort.
In this panos, find some another panos.
I'm saying by Shemitah, it's saying don't do anything. So if you turn Manecha, that's a good question.
But still, if you have a munah, in fact, we had in Gemara Shabbos that the farmers, the different things. But if you did Masa Munah, one of them is because to believe in Shemitah. The Horai, they never did Shemitah, right? 70 years Golos, because 70 Shemitah, which is basically the whole time they were there. They didn't do Shemitahs because it's the most difficult test of faith. So why by the ribis doesn't it say my money is sitting there doing nothing? Everyone else is investing, buying houses, buying stocks and shares, and I can't because I gave it to this person here. Give me a fixed income that he agrees to. They tell him whatever, all these kind of things. What about tzedakah? Every time I give away money, what do I have from it? We don't answer the question because you have a munah. Why mitamo shmiti? Anyway, that's a good. Anyway, Tana we learn how you. The question, okay, quickly. The question is a legitimate question. Why is it a legitimate question? Because the Taz says in Hilchos Chanukah, everyone asks why is Chanukah 8 nights? It should be 7 nights, and because one night they had enough oil. So the tendency is you had to leave a little bit of oil because the nest cannot happen on nothing. You need a little bit and then you can expand it. Like by the Maisa, Elisha, he told the woman, you have more barrels for more oil. You have to have a little bit. Therefore, the nest was that you had even a little bit left over. So they said, since the crop will completely die, we believe in this, but you need something. Like along the line what you said. What do you mean not in tanim? Every now they were not in, they were a bit older than that, but behaved like little kids. Maybe never place. What are you coming up with? Maybe the mama's little kids, because of their place, they're called Nadim. That Aram went and they captured one young girl, and the Kashla Naida Tana, she's a 12 years old, Tana is under 12. When a part of Tana, there's a place called Naida, so maybe the same thing here. So we said, over there in the Kislev Elisha, we know exactly where they lived. So therefore, that doesn't mean that means something else. It means we're talking about the description of them. Over there, the girl, we had no idea where she's from. And this is story with Naaman. She's the one who advised Naaman, listen to Elisha. They went after Elisha. He saw them. B'Shem Hashem. And he cursed them b'shem Hashem. Ma'ro when he saw Amarav Ra Mamish. He looked at them and that killed them. Give time he looked a number of times. Shimon ben Gamul ended. Call Malcolm every single place. That Shenasacham name Oy Misa Oyni. The Chacham got angry and he gave you a look. That's it. Shulam Rosh because Abraham and Imi he saw that he saw that not only they themselves had no mitzvahs, he saw that they had no history. Their mothers were over on Yom Kippur when they were born. They had no past, they had no present, and they have no future. That's my with the Messiah murder. As actually says the Chumash. Started the fast Toya, and there were two wives, and they were fighting with each other all the time, and then the Messiah murder had no past and no present. But Ab Yitzchak, Nafchama, Baludi, so the way they dressed. The way they hair, they cut the hair. I'm not like what blue exactly is, but they shaved all around the head, left a little lump in the middle or the lump in the back. So therefore, they were the Zara. He saw that the way they behaved, they were forget about the yichus, their behavior itself. He saw they had no shaykhis to mitzvah whatsoever. Lachluchis, they had no moisture, nothing. So you never have it. Maybe the children will have. That's what he saw. Like Moshe Ben saw the mitzvah, he saw that there was no future as well. Otherwise, he would not have done anything to them. But they said, "Time do in a year." Just finished the story. Elisha, 2 bears came out of the fathers, but 42 of them were killed. Rabbi Shmuel, one of them was a miracle, single miracle. The Chadam a double miracle. There was a forest there, but there were no bears. And what he did was he created the nest was the bears came out. This is where the saying comes from. There's no yard, there's no forest, there's no bears. So Gemara says, so why do you have to do this? Why do you have to create a forest? Just create bears. Because bears need their habitat. That they feel comfortable, they run out, they do the thing, they come back. If they have no forest, they'd be too scared, and they would go back to where they came from. And that's why the cats come out, because right now there's bears everywhere, because you leave the trees standing, and that's where they hide in all those trees. Now, L'chaida, you can ask, if you already made a nest, created bears, why can't you make a nest that the bears shouldn't need a forest? So obviously, he tried to make a nest, and there's 2 kinds of nissim. There's a nest where the thing is not there, and you create a nest, but once it's here, now it takes on a natural state. For example, according to some machlekes, the makab dam, he took the water and turned it into blood, but now that is blood, it's naturally blood. Or the pshat is no, a nest is that every second that it exists, like Kriyas Yamsuf, every second the Abishah had to blow his wind, because otherwise the water would have relapsed. So he's saying over here is that when they try to make a nest, as, the nest that is the lesser kind of a nest. The fact that it wasn't here, now it's here. But now that it's here, it goes back to Teva. Our says, others say that's even a greater nest. To create and make a nest that should go into Teva, marry the 2 together. Because of why did this happen? Because Balak brought 42 kabbanas, 3 sets, 3 mizbechas, and each one he did 7 rams and 7 sheep. So there's 14 times 3 is 42. Ain't it's not so even they have it already. In fact, because of the 42 kabbanas, he was able to have rus, and what's the shaykh of the rus? Because rus had Shlomo Melech. It says regarding Shlomo Melech that Elef Oilas, he brought 1,000 kabbanas, Yala Shlomo will bring. So, because Balak brought kabbanas, she had a great grandson who brought many kabbanas. So the Chayda Ruth came. What do you call it? Came from what do you call it? Ruth came from her. Ruth beat Eglon Benoisha Balak. So Ruth is the daughter of Eglon, daughter of son of Balak, which is impossible, and everyone says it means many generations later. What was his purpose? You think he cared about Shlomo Melech? His purpose was to destroy the Eden. But the fact is, even though he did Lo Lishma, he was zeicher for this thing here, which is very hard to understand, because in the Gemara before that we learned Chavbeis, we were trying to say, and the Shainim there, because sometimes we say Shlo Lishma is a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, and we say if it's Shlo Lishma to use the Torah against the Torah, then it's a bad thing. No, and Balak was using it to destroy the Eden, and yet we're saying let's learn from there Shlo Lishma. What could be trying to use a mitzvah to destroy the Eden is just as bad as using the Torah to destroy the Torah. And yet we're saying Lo Lishma. Okay, we'll stop over here and we'll continue mitzvah tomorrow.